another thing is, when you are doing the sessions, the human head has 1,200 hairs per square inch on the scalp. So you never want to try to put 1,200 micropigment dots into a square inch, because it's just going to migrate and look like one big puddle, one big blob of ink. So the correct way is you always want to maybe do 300 to 400 hairs per square inch on a session. So when you do the second session, you can put another 300 or 400 hairs on that square inch. So with the more sessions, the more illusion you get of micro hairs. That's one of the misconceptions of scalp pigmentation. A lot of people try to make so much ink on the scalp where the dots will migrate. So you actually want to space apart the pigments just enough to where they almost touch, which is really important. You never want to overpopulate and migrate a scalp with ink. It's one of the really important factors. You should, by the session 3, you should look at a square inch of the scalp, and it should look like there's 1,200 hairs per square inch in any part of the scalp. So for the first one, we're gonna probably put close to 300 hairs per square inch. You technically just want to match the density that he's got here. You know, it looks like maybe on his scalp he's got maybe 200 hairs per square inch because he's thinning. So you almost want to match that at 200 for the first session. You know, then I go with the grain of the scalp. So the pigments that I lay into the scalp, I kind of go with the grain of the hair. So the direction of his natural hair flow, I want to follow that. I want to make it look like his hairs are growing in a certain direction. That has to do with the positioning of the needle and the whatever machine and needle that you use, and it has to do with the skill. You know, to take practice to really get to the level where you can actually, you know your tip of the needle, and you know where there's an angle on the needle. So I'm using a 3-point micro needle, and the 3-point micro is pretty much just 3 little tiny needles that equal to one little tip. And pretty much you just want that tip going into the skin. You don't want to have too much of a depth. You don't want the needle to go too deep into the skin, because then it will start to, you'll get blowouts. And having them quick little jabs into the scalp really help giving that natural presence of hairs. The faster the needle goes in the skin, the smaller the hollow hair follicle you're going to have. It's almost a feeling, like when you're doing the scalps, you just want to let the needle do all the work. You don't want to force the needle into the skin, you just want to have it flow. There's a certain feeling you'll have. I can actually close my eyes and just feel the needle go into the skin and still have the same consistency throughout the whole head. It's just a feeling. It's really important. I won't close my eyes for him, but just to say, I've done it. I'm probably going to wind up doing it in one of my future videos. Just to show people at home, it's a feeling. When you're doing this scalp pigmentation, it's a feeling you're going to have. It's like after a while, for me, it's like driving a car. I could just pick up the needle and go. And I know everybody's skin, you know, after 8 years of doing this, you kind of know every scalp that comes in. I know exactly how their skin, you know, is going to retain it. And I could tell what pressures are used on each client. Every part of the scalp is different pressures. Some spots require a little bit more pressure, and some guys' skin is so thick that you have to break the fatty tissue to get to the dermal layer of the scalp. You see how it's starting to blend down? And then you just kind of go back through some of the empty spots. He's got more of a lighter complexion, so you don't want to go too aggressive. You never want to start too dark on a session either. Like I said, that first session should always be lighter than the actual hair follicles once settled.
Yeah. She okay?